You ever get stuck on a problem that seems so simple? And then when you finally see the solution, it feels like it was staring you in the face the whole time? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the hidden psychology of how our minds actually work, why we get tripped up by seemingly easy problems, and more importantly, how we can learn to unlock those brilliant solutions. All right, let's kick things off with a classic puzzle. This was designed by a psychologist named Carl Dunker way back in 1945. Now, on the surface, it looks super simple, but it has this crazy history of stumping some of the smartest people out there. Let's see how you do. So, here's the real mystery, right? Why do so many incredibly smart people get this wrong? And here's the kicker. It has nothing to do with your IQ. It's all about a very specific blind spot in our thinking, a kind of mental trap that pretty much all of us fall into without even realizing it. Okay, here's the challenge. Imagine you're in a room, you've got a candle, a book of matches, and a cardboard box full of thumbtacks. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get that candle mounted on the wall in a way that when you light it, the wax won't drip down onto the floor. How would you solve it? Seriously, go ahead and pause here if you want to give it a shot. So, to figure out why that puzzle is so ridiculously hard, we need to pop the hood and look at how our brains are wired. Turns out, our mind is basically running on two different operating systems, or two different speeds. So you've got System 1. Think of this as your brain on autopilot. It's fast, it's automatic, it's your gut reaction. It's what lets you know that 2 plus 2 is 4 without even thinking. And then you've got System 2. This is your slow, deliberate, conscious brain. It's the one that needs to focus when you're doing, a tough math problem or trying to parallel park. And let's be honest, most of the time, our brain is lazy. It wants to stick with the easy route, which is always System 1. In fact, let's put your System 1 to the test right now. Ready? A bat and a ball cost $1.10 total. The bat costs exactly $1 more than the ball. So, how much does the ball cost? Just go with the very first number that popped into your head. If you're like pretty much everyone else, your brain probably screamed 10 cents, right? That's your speedy System 1 just taking over. It sees the $1.10, it sees the dollar, and it just subtracts, jumping to the most obvious seeming answer. But that's the trap. The correct answer is actually 5 cents. Think about it. If the ball is 5 cents and the bat costs $1 more, the bat is $1.05. And what's $1.05 plus 5 cents? It's $1.10. See? To get that right, you have to actively engage that slow, effortful System 2 to check the math and override your first impulse. And this is exactly the same dynamic that's going on with that candle problem. So the reason these puzzles are so effective is that they expose this really common glitch in our thinking. It's a mental shortcut that most of the time is helpful, but sometimes it literally locks our minds inside a box. This mental trap has a name. It's called functional fixedness. It's basically our brain's tendency to see an object and only think about its most common, traditional use. A hammer is for hitting nails, a mug is for drinking coffee, and a box was for holding things, period. So when you looked at those items for the candle problem, your System 1 brain went into labeling mode instantly. Candle for light, matches for fire, box, it's just a container for the tacks. That's its one and only job. And once that label is slapped on, it's really hard to see it as anything else. The aha moment, the breakthrough, only happens when you shatter that fixed idea. The solution is to dump the thumbtacks out of the box, use one of the tacks to pin the empty box to the wall, and then set the candle inside it. The box isn't just a container, it's also a platform, a shelf. You have to see a new function for an old object. And here's why this is so important. This isn't just about solving some clever puzzles. This is the very essence of creativity, of innovation, of thinking outside the box. And the best part? It's not magic. It's a mental skill that you can actually train and get better at. Yeah, we often have this idea that creativity is this special gift. Something you're either born with or you're not. But what psychology actually shows us is that creativity is just a way of thinking. It's a cognitive muscle, and just like any other muscle, the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. A fantastic way to practice this is with something called the alternate uses test. It's simple. You take a common object, like a brick. Now, your first System 1 thought is probably build a wall. Obvious. But a mind that's trained to beat functional fixedness will start to see more. It could be a doorstop, right? A paperweight, a weight for working out. You could even grind it down and use it as chalk. This is what's known as divergent thinking. Instead of narrowing down to one answer, you're branching out and generating tons of possibilities.
So, how do we actually use this stuff in our daily lives? How do we get better at solving our own problems, whether they're big or small? Well, the secret, the genius, is all in the reframe. It's about consciously changing the way you look at the problem in front of you. It really boils down to three mental shifts. First, just slow down. Hit the brakes on that gut reaction and activate your system 2 brain. Question your first answer. Second, reframe the pieces. Look at the different parts of your problem and ask, okay, what else could this be? What other purpose could this serve? And third, generate options. Don't hunt for the single right answer. Instead, challenge yourself to come up with 5, 10, even 20 possible answers. And that brings us to one last question for you to take with you. Think about a challenge you're facing right now, in your work or in your life. Is there a box in that problem that you've only been seeing as a container? What would happen if you dumped out the tax and saw it as a platform instead? What kind of hidden solution might be waiting for you, right there, in plain sight?